His name's Phill.
And his name is Tim.
And this is Tim and Phill Talk About Games.
A podcast where Tim and myself get together and talk about games we've recently played and discuss topics in the world of gaming.
After having a fantastic time at PAX Australia 2015, we've finally returned home. And what better way to celebrate than to talk about the various virtual homes that we've crafted in ancient lands and on distant planets.
Absolutely. We will discuss what makes a textured cube a home and why giving the player a place to call their own is such a powerful tool in games. Alrighty, yeah, we're here again, finally. It's been a couple of weeks, so it's been quite a number of weeks actually since the last episode went out, but that's because we were very busy preparing for PAX.
First of all, writing a panel.
Yeah.
And then presenting a panel.
Writing and then presenting and then kind of de-stressing after that whole ordeal.
I actually haven't unpacked. It's been 2 weeks.
Well, So while we were at PAX this year, Tim discovered 3 books that he had bought at PAX last year.
That was still in my suitcase.
It's still in your suitcase and still hadn't actually been unwrapped. So this is our organizational skills. Once again, we want to say to everybody, thank you so much for coming out and watching us. It was amazing. We packed out the room again, and according to the enforcers, we apparently turned away about 200 to 300 extra people that unfortunately didn't get to see our presentation. So that's like a good 700 or 800 people who were really keen to hear what we said, and that just blows us away, seriously. Like, every time, I know we've only done this twice, but both times we've done this, it's just been insane. It's just been so good. So yeah, thank you guys so much. It was awesome.
It really is. It's a really humbling experience. I mean, because first of all, I was stressing out that we wouldn't get anyone. I was so worried that we were going to get maybe 30 people and that it was going to be awkward and then they would just leave.
Yeah, whereas I was stressing out that we were getting so many. Yeah. So from pretty much opposite
ends of the anxiety spectrum.
Yeah.
So it was fantastic. It was really wonderful to see everyone come up. And also a huge thank you to the number of people who had come back. They'd seen us present last year and they had specifically come back to see us present again this year. I mean, that doesn't even compute for me. My brain doesn't register that as a thing.
Yeah. No, it was really, really just humbling, I guess, is the main word. And thanks to everyone that came up to us after the show and had some really awesome extra questions, because we actually got to do question time this time, which was really, really great. Some people had some great questions in the audience, which we really appreciated. Like, people were obviously very switched on. And then we had some people come and have a chat to us after the show, and that was really good. And even just wandering around during the rest of the show, like Saturday and Sunday. Sunday. We
in
actually
Melbourne,
had a few, just a few people come up and say hi and ask us a couple more questions. So that was really, really great.
And then I had 2 people come to me at the liquor store at the Melbourne train station. We're like, hey, we saw you. I was like, oh, that's cool. Thanks.
Yeah. Is that cool?
It is. It was pretty cool. It was fun. Yeah. It was a lot of fun, and it was fantastic. Thank you all.
And breakfast the following day as well. We sat next to a couple of people. It was so bizarre. Anyway, we probably sound like little fanboys, like talking about people, but yeah, it was awesome, and we absolutely love it. The presentation itself will be going up online. We have everything.
As soon as Tim edits it together.
As soon as it's a bit of an undertaking, because he's got to grab the audio feeds from both our audio, the video, and the presentation, and kind of weave them together in a nice way. But it's this year we actually do have that. So last year the audio was just totally whacked, and we couldn't actually do it properly. So this year it will be proper. It will be a really good presentation to maybe share to your friends. Maybe I don't know. Yeah. Hopefully we can get that up sooner rather than later, and people can appreciate that. That'd be great. But besides PAX, we have an episode to do. So today, kind of along the theme of, we were trying to brainstorm topics to come up with, and we kind of went, PAX was awesome, the whole welcome home thing. And then we started thinking about homes, and because we're both playing the absolute hell out of Fallout 4 at the moment, the topic of homes in games, and home bases and that kind of stuff.
Actually, just stopping playing Fallout to record this was an ordeal in itself.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, there's quite a number of things to talk about there. Before we get started, though, we have a few announcements besides the gratitude that we had for PAX so we actually have some followers to announce. We haven't done this for a while.
Because we keep forgetting to actually promote and put ourselves out there.
Yeah, I know. But
no one sees things that you don't put on shelves, Phill. You can't sell an item if it's in the back room.
That's true. So we got an absolute crap ton of Twitter followers after the show, and that would just take way too long to read out. So thank you very much to all those guys that followed us and tweeted really nice things at us, which was really awesome.
You are.
You know who you are,
and
you
more
know
importantly,
awesome.
we know who you are.
Exactly, because we have you on our following list, because we followed all of you back. But besides Twitter, which was a bit of a flood, we also had a few people sign up to our Facebook and YouTubes. So Facebook, we had William Ring, Moonwatcher.
I'm sure that's not their real name.
I sincerely
hope
hope
it
that it is. Yeah, I sincerely hope that is. David Coffey and also Andrew Pierce. And I think Andrew Pierce actually shared one of our episodes, which I think may be either a first or close to a first in terms of someone autonomously sharing our episodes that's not a direct friend of ours, like that we know and see every day in real life. So yeah, that was a thrill. That was quite nice. And on YouTube, who do we have on YouTube?
We have Helene Oreo. I think it's Helene or Helene. Alma KO. Why did the YouTube ones have such difficult to pronounce names? IDOZ with a little O. So all those are in capitals, but with a little O. So
Yep.
IDOZ.
IDOZ. Yep.
And Wesley Carroll. Thank you, Wesley Carroll, for having an easy name.
So thanks to all those guys for signing up. Before we start the episode, we did want to put out a little bit of a feeler, a little bit of a shout out to maybe get some people to contact us. While we just after we did the presentation, we actually had kind of a Twitter idea that people seemed pretty keen on to get other scientists on the show to talk about games they play and why they like them, and maybe some of the
Their
more
favorite
in-depth
games.
reasons. Yeah, just and in-depth reasons as to why they like them, that kind of stuff. So if you're a scientist or someone that's studying science, whether it's at university or even high school, if you really love science and you're in high school, or you're doing a bachelor's, or you're doing a postdoc, or you're doing a postgrad, or you work in industry, anything. If you're involved in science in any way, shape, or form, please give us a call, I guess, but through email.
The lines are open.
Yeah, the lines are open on made up number. No, so just send us an email, either Phill@timandphil.com or Tim@timandphil.com. Either of those work. Send us an email, put your hand up, and maybe we can try and get an interview rolling. Maybe we're not thinking particularly long, like 15 to 20 minutes, but if it goes longer, why not?
Yeah.
See how this goes.
You don't even have to give us your name. You could be entirely anonymous if you like.
You can use your alias, that's fine. We don't mind them. I'm Flax, Tim's Ajatus. We know how that works. So yeah, if you're a scientist and you'd like to talk about games, give us an email. Shoot us through an email or Twitter as well. That also works.
Any of the regular ways that you might get in contact with someone on the internet.
Yep, exactly. Post on our Facebook wall. We don't care. Any
Carrier
of the ways
pigeon, smoke signals, it all works.
Yep, semaphore. All fantastic. I think that's about it for announcements.
Which is good, because there were a lot of them.
Yeah, there were a lot. I guess the only other thing is that this horrible black slug that you see crawling across the top of my lip isn't a black slug. It's an awful, awful mustache that I'm
the audio
growing.
people, the people who are just listening to the podcast, have truly been spared a benthic horror here. Because we're both heavily into the Movember this year.
Yep.
It is day 13-ish?
14.
14, there we go. I don't know dates, time. I don't know your human time.
There is only Fallout.
There is only Fallout, yeah. And there are no moustaches in my Fallout character. Because I'm not a monster.
Yeah, so we're both doing Movember. That's why we look awful. Well, it's actually, Tim probably looks pretty good, but I can't grow a motor to save my life, so I look really, really bad. I'm on the
I don't know if I look good. I look like someone you wouldn't let near a school.
Well, yeah. I don't think that you wouldn't let me near like in the same state as a school. I'm surprised that I'm still in Australia, to be honest. But there you go. So that's why we look awful. All right, announcements done. Shoutouts done.
Homes, Phill.
Yeah, so homes and
What's
games.
the deal with homes and games?
Well, so the reason that we started talking about this is that obviously we've both been playing Fallout 4. It got released this week. And there is actually quite a large part of the game which is concerned with homes and building settlements for people. So attracting various wandering people from the wasteland into your settlements. And the way you do that is constructing a home. And it kind of got us to thinking about all the games we've played in the past and probably all the games that we're going to be playing in the future, where homes and creating a space within the game itself that's kind of asynchronous with the game. Like, it just kind of is there. It's somewhere that you can return to, somewhere that's safe. How that kind of affects people's interaction with the game. Because quite often, games are linear. Like, you are moving through the world that the developer created for you. So homes in games often kind of step outside that linearity and make you able to affect a little spot in the game that just exists that you have control over, which we think is a really interesting, like, I guess, concept or construct or mechanic, I suppose.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we just wanted to kind of explore the kinds of games that have that and what it makes us feel about those games and how it affects the way that we play them and how we respond to different stuff. So, yeah.
And
that's pretty much the rationale.
They're popular too. I mean, everyone seems to like having homes in games. If you look at the original sort of the announcement release of Fallout 4 at the Bethesda panel at, what was it, Gamescom or?
I don't know. To be honest,
it was one of the big conventions.
I've been like
blissfully unaware.
Kept track. I have not kept track. Like until Tim and one of our good friends, Patrick, gave me Fallout 4 for my 30th birthday, which is really awesome. Up until that point, I kind of hadn't really looked at anything to do with it. So yeah, I'm going to rely on Tim for the actual timeline of all this stuff.
And so what happened was they announced it, this big stage announcement, and everyone was like, "Oh yeah, Fallout 4, it's great." We've been looking for another Fallout game for a couple of years now, I guess. Actually, I feel like Fallout 3 and New Vegas wasn't that long ago, but when you look it up, it actually was.
Yeah, and there was actually... I think there was actually from memory, there was a hoax that had been done like less than 6 months before.
That's right.
Someone had done like a full-on ARG sort of that was kind of hinting at he was basically trolling people with the idea of a Fallout 4, but then it turned out that actually there was a Fallout 4.
So yeah, but when they showed it, everyone was excited about the fact that Fallout 4 existed at all. But then they showed off the ability to actually build these settlements, and the crowd went nuts. That was easily one of the most excitable parts of the presentation, and it was a very, very good presentation. I should point out as well that this is the first time that Todd Howard has worked on a Fallout game. I'm pretty sure. I don't think he worked on 3, because at the time I'm pretty sure he was pretty heavily invested in Skyrim. Right. If you want to disprove me on that, go ahead. You know where my email is. But I'm pretty sure this is the first time Todd Howard was involved in one. And he has a fantastic stage presence as well. So his announcements of anything is going to be fantastic. Mm-hmm. But when he showed off the houses, the room went nuts. And it was pretty cool because what you can do is it's not just that you plonk down a prefab and put some beds into it. Like you can actually put down different rooms, different types of wall and materials. It's not hugely deep, but it is a lot deeper than it really needed to be in a game like Fallout. And what it's done is it's created this whole next level of gameplay and design that you don't expect in a game like this, which I thought was really, really impressive. So people really, really want the ability to build houses. And you can see that as well in older games. So being on the Bethesda train, if you go back and look at something like, for example, Oblivion had some very, very basic... I have a cat with me.
Tim's cat is really needy at the moment because there's no one else in the house, so it's like...
So shut up.
Yeah.
She's really loud. She has a thyroid problem, so she's very, very loud. So if you look at games like Oblivion and even Morrowind, so Morrowind was one of the early Elder Scrolls games, Elder Scrolls 3, and one of the first mods that people made was the ability to have a house in the game. Because without the mods, you could store things in chests at the Fighters Guild or in the bunk beds at the Mages Guild in Balmorra, etc. But people obviously like the idea of having a house to call their own.
Yeah. So that brings up one of the mechanical benefits of having a home in a game such as Fallout or Skyrim. And it's kind of unique to those games, those massive open world games that basically have like a million different items in them. So it's kind of like you use the house basically just as a storage. Like it could be in the shape of a chest and it wouldn't matter. It doesn't need to have 4 walls, but it does, kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Sorry,
you're dealing with the cat.
I had to deal with the cat.
No, that's fine.
So storage was the first thing, but it very quickly evolved to be something more than just storage. Because they started adding in things that you don't need. They have no mechanical reason to be in there at all.
No, of course not. Yeah, like decorations, basically.
Decorations. Beds. I mean, beds, sleeping in games will quite often give you things like a small experience gain bonus, so that you can level up faster or something along those lines.
Yeah. Or HP, getting your HP back kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. But they started adding in things like, oh, this one's got a bookcase where you can store your books, or this one's got some picture frames on the wall that can remind you of places that you've been. You know, they started adding more and more to just sort of show off what you achieved in the game, and also keeping in mind that these are single-player games. You're showing them off to yourself. There's no one else to look.
That's the interesting thing, right? Because, you know, the reason... I guess it does mirror a lot the functionality of a house in real life, because you're not necessarily showing off your house to everybody every single day.
No.
But there is, you know, people will come to your house, hopefully, if you have friends. Or rent inspections, whichever.
Which is the same thing. It's a friend that comes in and judges you more harshly.
Yeah, and then takes your money every week forever. So it's different, I feel, in games, because although there are ways to show other people your house in a game, they're not like very easy to do. I mean, I guess you could take a screenshot and send it to someone and go, look at my house, but that's kind of weird and forced. So really all you're decorating a house for in a video game is pretty much purely for your own benefit. Like, there's no social pressures there, so you can make it look however you like. And it kind of gives you this control over the space, right? Like, it's really quite an interesting thing to see what people put in their houses in games. Like, whether or not they do go for that utilitarian, you know, just the basics set out, really minimalist, you know, just very like get in, get out, I want to get out and do more questing, or if it's somewhere where they will actually spend a lot of time.
Yeah, and so after the mods in Morrowind started getting you houses, Oblivion then gave you the ability to purchase a house as well. But the problem with that one is that there was no real reason to go there.
Well, yeah.
Most of the time it was out of the way.
You can just... Well, oh, sorry. I thought you meant go there as in purchase a house. Because I know that you could just go into any house, murder someone, and then take their house.
Yeah, exactly. How you would in the real world.
Yeah, that's how everyone does it.
Isn't that how the real estate market works?
Yeah.
And they keep talking about bubbles, so...
Yeah, baby boomers are all just massive multiple homicide murderer types. That's how they got ahead.
So what happened in Oblivion was that, you know, it didn't feel quite right. But then when Skyrim came out, they'd gone the entire other direction, where they'd released an entire expansion dedicated to building houses. It was called Hearthstone. Hearthstone? Hearthhome?
Hearthfire.
Hearthfire? There we go.
Something.
It had the word hearth in it.
Yep.
And that was a huge, huge part, because it wasn't just that you buy a house, but you actually buy a plot of land and you build a house, and then you start adding rooms, and you evolve the house with time, and the house starts to take on the same sort of feel as your character. So if you were a bit of a darker player, you might have a weird, like, dark magic area down the back, or you might have an armory if you were a fighter person, or if you were a wizard person, you might build the book tower. There's all these different ways you can customize it. And then on top of that, you also have the Jarl, which is the steward that looks after your house. And then you could also have another steward as well, so you could have 2 other people living in your house. And then you could have your spouse. There's some people that you could marry, in big quotation marks, because it's the right of Mara. And so all of a sudden you're starting to populate the house with more and more things, and then you can even adopt orphans and bring them into your house. Like, it started to become a much more complicated and more invested concept in Skyrim.
But it didn't necessarily have a huge amount of mechanical
again, other than the storage
result, did it?
No, there was no reason to go there if you didn't want to. Although in Skyrim it at least made it feel like there was a reason to go back, because you could evolve the house. And you couldn't really do that in Oblivion. You could store things in it, you could change slight things about the looks, but most of the time it was just about, putting your stuff down and walking out again.
Yeah. Did you get bonuses or anything like that? Money or...
Yeah, again, you got the experience boost. Most games seem to do this, where you get this experience boost if you sleep. Which is trying to sort of force immersion onto people. Which...
Incentivizing it anyway.
Yeah, it's a bit ham-fisted. But
it's very surface level, right? You can. It's like the most basic way of incentivizing someone to go and do something and experience a particular type of the game is just to give them basically in-game currency, whether or not that's gold or experience or power in whichever way.
Beetle heads, whatever it is.
Beetle heads?
I don't know.
Okay, we have to make a game with beetle heads now.
Done. Put it on the list.
It's a long list. So it's really interesting to see, I guess, how developers try and make it attractive to people to engage in the whole house thing.
Because, again, people want it. Even in games that don't have specific house mechanics, people will still build houses. In the early days of Minecraft, back in early beta, when they didn't have as many of the different blocks and things that we have now, what's the very first thing you do when you get into Minecraft? And I'm pretty sure there's a Penny Arcade comic about this as well, because there's a Penny Arcade comic about after you've punched a tree and you realize you can get wood, you're like, I have wood. Oh, I can make a cabin.
Yeah.
And you build a house. You do kind of, as you pointed out to me before, you're like, but Tim, you need a house, otherwise you will die in Minecraft. There are creepers everywhere.
Yeah.
But you don't need to build a house. You could dig a hole in the ground and then put a roof of dirt over the top of it and just wait out the, 8 hours of nighttime or whatever. But you don't need to. You don't need to build a house. But you do. You will go in and you'll give it a thatched roof, and you'll make sure that the walls are a different color from the roof to make it aesthetically pleasing to live in. And then you go, oh, you know what? This needs some windows, and it needs a door, and I might make a little potted plant out the front, and I might... You start turning it into quite literally a house rather than just a base.
But that's the thing, is that if you give players that... So it can go two ways, right? Or I guess there's two ways that I would like this to... two things that I want to discuss. One is that... when is the point at which that's a new game, basically?
Yeah.
Like, when does it become a game within a game? And then also, how little... That's when you give the player quite a lot of control over the amount of house they can build, right? And the other thing is, what happens when you take away... What is the least amount of house? What is the least amount of home that you can have before and the player still feels like it's somewhere that they control and belong and have safety and have etc. So first things first, when does that start becoming another game? Because in Fallout 4, one of our friends, Serena, I'm pretty sure from the messages that she's sent around, I don't think she's gotten too far into the game.
No.
I think she's just building a settlement. Like, that's it.
Yeah, I have another friend who's done exactly the same thing. She's like, I'm level 21 and I have a bandana. Why do I look so bad? And I'm like, I don't know. Have you gone here? She's like, no. Have you gone here? No. Have you gone here? No. What have you been doing?
Wait, have you finished the first quest?
What have you been doing? And she goes, I've been building the settlement. And I'm like, how big is it now? She's like, there's like 30 people in it.
Jesus. That's a lot for people that haven't played Fallout. Or at least it's a lot to me, because I only have like 5 people in my first settlement.
Yeah, I have 7 and I've put like 21 hours into the game already. And she's got 30 people. And I'm like, well, that's amazing. That's a whole new level of achievement that I'm really impressed about. I want 30 people in my house.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. So when... That's when it becomes basically a game within a game, right? Because the game in quotation marks of Fallout 4 is that there is a main quest line, there's places to explore, there's, evil doers to overcome, there's spoiler things that we can't talk about, but we will eventually. With regards to your main character and her or his leanings, I'm playing through as a female. I'm sure Tim is as well.
Actually, I'm not.
You're not?
I
Wow,
know,
that's interesting.
right?
That's different.
Yeah.
Have to talk about that. Anyway, future episode.
Put it on the list.
You know, that's kind of the game that they've put in there for you to start and finish. But then there's just this settlement thing, which kind of exists sort of outside the game itself. You know, like sort of not necessarily something that you need to engage in, really. I don't think it... I mean, I think it gives you some benefits, like you can get extra weapons, you can modify weapons, you can craft stuff and all that kind of stuff. But I'm pretty sure you could find... If you wanted to, you could pretty much just find everything you needed to finish the game out in the wasteland. There's no real need to do all this, but it's so... quickly has captured so many of the people that we know that are playing this game, and
even though the UI is terrible.
Oh my god!
Like,
who designed that?
It is like someone hates you.
Yeah, it's like build this city, but with I don't know,
with your elbows. Only with your elbows.
Honestly, that's what it feels like. Like
Here, have this hammer. Like... Why is it shaped weirdly? Oh, it's an elbow hammer. You have to hold it with your elbows.
It's so bizarre. I really don't understand why they made it so ridiculously difficult.
I mean, I kind of do. It's because it's consoles. It's so very... You can tell. I don't want to get on the console bashing wagon, but the rotation tool and the placement tool, it's designed to be used with dual analog sticks.
Yeah, that's true, actually. You got a point. Yeah, it would be far better and far easier. And I'm sure there's already somebody that's working on a mod for this where you can just go into a top-down view.
And if you're out there and you're listening, can you do it quickly?
Yeah, please. It'll make things so much easier. I'm sure there's a way in which people will make it so there's a top-down view that you can just click, 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 click.
It can't be hard to do. And I don't actually know why it wasn't done in the first place. This is another topic that I will probably bring up with you later. But in games, if you have two mechanics, if you have two vastly different mechanics that you need, or need the player to do, but are available to the player, don't ham the second one into the first.
That's the
Make
thing.
it a second mechanic.
Yeah, it's making the tool right for the job, not trying to slam it into the existing framework that you have.
And
or if you're going to make it a lot easier and you know, not that many bloody buttons to press just to build a friggin' bed.
Non-elbow using.
Yes, exactly.
It's a fairly endemic problem to Bethesda games, and I'm never one to bash on Bethesda, as you well know. But
I do, yes.
But this is something they do terribly. Every single game that has multiple mechanics in it, Bethesda always seem to royally cock it up every single time. If you become the master thief in, or the head of the Thieves Guild in Skyrim, or any of the Elder Scrolls games, actually, you send people out on these missions, but you have to do it through awkward dialogue boxes. Like, it's just make a second screen. Just make something that you can interact with in a different way. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like I said, other topic for another day.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, so it's very interesting. So getting back to the fact that it's a game within a game, like it's very interesting to see how people have approached that and how it has kind of, I wouldn't say distracted or it's diluted, I guess. So you I have done like 3 or 4 main missions or so, but I just keep finding myself coming back and working on this settlement, and I guess it is drawing me into the game a little bit more than I would otherwise. Yeah. Because the actual game itself, like Fallout 4 compared to Fallout 3 on New Vegas, it's not very different.
No.
It really isn't. There are same guns, there are same, you know, kind of archetypes, you know, there's
pretty
all
sure
these
some of the sounds have been recycled too.
Yeah, like same factions, same graphics almost. Like some of the graphics are, you know, the stuff just looks the same as before, basically.
Which
and
I think is also part of the problem when you're dealing with a post-apocalyptic future. Like, there's gonna be a lot of brown.
Well, there's not about... No, I mean, I don't necessarily mean that, but the color palette has improved, I thought, actually a little bit, because it's a little
way
bit
more
colourful.
vivid. Yeah.
Yeah, it's way more colourful, and that is good. But I don't feel like I'm really playing a different game to Fallout 3.
In some ways,
I don't know
absolutely.
if you've got the same.
No, absolutely, yeah. In fact, there are some ways I actually like. I wanted to do something, and I was like, oh wait, that was a Fallout 3 thing, and then I felt a little bit nostalgic. I was like, oh, I actually kind of miss Fallout 3, and you shouldn't feel like that when you're playing Fallout 4. Like,
No,
you should never lament about the other game.
Yeah.
But that's not to say that Fallout 4 is a bad game. We are playing the bejesus out of it. Like, we're just non-stop playing this thing. So
it's solid. It's solid. But I just find it very interesting that in a game that's about kind of, or at least the series is kind of about finding your home, like finding a way to exist in this wasteland, they've kind of, rather than doing it with story and, good world building, they kind of just gave you it. And just like... Yeah. You know what? We're going to give you all the tools to create your own home.
Again, is another criticism of the game in that it just does tend to give you things and not explain any of them.
Yeah, well, that's that. But in terms of like, you can make this kick-ass home in the middle of the wasteland and then be like, do I really need to go out and keep doing the main quest line? I guess I do, because it's quite a powerful reason to, go out and do things
without spoiling things. Yeah,
without spoiling anything. There is a fairly powerful.
Do want to get you out there?
Yeah, exactly.
And also, without spoiling anything, I don't know if this is technically a spoiler. If you're super sensitive to spoilers, you have about 3 seconds to stop listening, and you can only just stop listening for about maybe 30 seconds. So, the fact that you have gone back to your house as well.
Yeah.
Is really interesting to me, because when I got back to my house and then there are other people who come back and you're building your settlement around your old house, I was like, get out of my house. Like, you sleep in your bed, in your makeshift shanty. I want to sleep in the abandoned ruins of my house. This is mine.
Yeah, that's really weird. I find it strange that you can't, like, assign people to beds maybe or something like that. Yeah, that's a bit odd. All right, you can come back now if you're avoiding spoilers. So, in terms of your settlement, like, what have you done with your settlement? What's your focus been?
So I actually, and again, this is another one of those things where it doesn't teach you; it just lets you do, and then you have to figure out for yourself. I accidentally made it self-sufficient before the quest tells you to. So I got there, I was like, oh, melons, I'll harvest some melons. Oh, look, I can use that to plant more melon bushes. And I had a very Matt Damon on Mars moment where I was like, oh, let's sacrifice all for the food to make more food so that I can live for the next, 4 years.
Yeah.
And then tried to build some defenses and things, and then I chatted to the guy, and he's like, hey, guy, welcome to the village building part of the game. Start off by trying to make some food. And I'm like, yep, done it. Oh, good. Now we need water. Yep, done it.
Yeah.
Oh, good. So my first thing was to get the beds out to make sure everyone had a place to sleep. But then I was really like, I wanted to fortify. I wanted to make sure I had walls all the way around it. But it's so tedious and it's so difficult. I actually just kind of gave up on that. I just left it be open and full of turrets. So, not that I've been attacked yet. I don't know if that's ever going to happen.
I haven't either. Yeah.
So it's a bit weird. It's a hard one. I haven't actually spent that much time on the house building side of things. No. I spend most of my time going out into the wasteland, scrapping as much raw material as possible, and then dragging it back. Like last night, I walked from Lexington back to Sanctuary with an encumbrance of 980.
I'm shaking my head. You can't see me, but I'm shaking my head. No, Tim.
You can't fast travel. You can't do anything. You just have to walk back at It took me hours and hours and hours just to walk back with this. I'm not putting any of it down. I will not let any of this go. That's how I play Fallout.
Right. Okay.
I had so many pipe flanges.
Oh dear, no. Okay, we should probably stop talking about Fallout because it's quite exclusive and
it is.
Maybe people haven't had a chance to play it.
Before you said, what's the least amount of house that you can have before it stops being a house?
Because that to me is a really interesting thing. Because people like characters, people will inhabit things in game without really very much prompting. So a character that doesn't even look like them and doesn't say a single line of dialogue, or maybe does say lines of dialogue, but they're really dumb. people will still find ways to empathize and to inhabit those people. And I was wondering whether or not you thought the same happens with spaces.
Absolutely.
I think it does. I think it definitely does. I think it
The
doesn't.
first time I can remember doing this was in Morrowind. And this was before there were house mods. The very, very first time I played Morrowind, so many, many years ago, I remember that after getting out of Seyda and getting to Balmoral and finding, my place there, I was like, oh, this is really interesting, and now I can join a guild. Oh, excellent. And I joined the Mages Guild. And downstairs... No, the Fighters Guild. Mm-hmm. It was one of the two. We're going back 20 years now. So, going downstairs, and there was the area with all the bunk beds and like the rice paper walls, very sort of almost Japanese style, in the middle of the weird bone ash culture of Morrowind. I found a bunk bed, and I was like, I literally claimed the bunk. And I'm like, okay, this is going to be mine. And I put all my stuff in the chest at the foot of the bed. Mm-hmm. And I would only ever sleep in this bed. And like, there was no way for you to actually claim or even modify this area to make it look like your own. And things that you left on the floor would disappear because Morrowind did not have the computational power to keep all those things permanent. Mm. But just by coming back to it over and over and over again, it really genuinely started to feel like it was mine. And it wasn't until several hundred hours into the game that I started to slowly migrate myself to one of the Telvanni towers later on in the game. And then that became my home in the game. And then the mods came. So then I literally had a house.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember the mods being a big deal because my brother and I used to play the crap out of that game. And getting the mods where it would put this massive tower or a massive like house in the middle of a swampland or something like that, or in because it wasn't like you could place it yourself. It was just wherever the mod person thought a house should be that should have all the stuff that you needed. That's where it was. Yeah. So yeah, I find it interesting that you had a place that you went back to and claimed as your own, whereas in Morrowind I pretty much just slept wherever the hell I could.
Like in real life.
I didn't. Yeah, like in last night. No, I think it's interesting how little it took, right? Like how little, like it was just the particular aesthetics of the place, probably.
I liked the green glowing interesting bits.
Yeah, and you were like, yeah, this is mine.
Yeah,
this is my home.
And the people around it were nice. Like I remember talking to like Gro Shub, the orc mage that was there, and like very nostalgic. It's a good place, good time.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, sorry, you go.
Yeah, I was just saying, and then so much further in the future, I was even in the first Mass Effect game before they capitalized on it with Mass Effects 2 and 3. The Normandy for me was very much a home as well, because it is the place you always come back to. That genuinely felt like a home as well. And like I would even go back to the captain's quarters, even though you didn't need to. You could do anything you wanted from other terminals in the ship. But I would still go back to the captain's quarters, and every now and then I would just lie on the bed for a bit, or I'd sit at the desk and turn on some music. Like it was a weird thing, but it was having that to come back to felt like you could kind of de-stress a little bit within the character. I don't know. Maybe this is just me being weird, but that's how I played the game.
I think it's funny. So that literally is just, there's no customization. There's no nothing. It's just, they give you a context sensitive button that you can press and you can lie down.
Yeah.
Like that's all that they've done.
Doesn't even give you an experience boost.
Right. So that little amount. So this is something that a designer has done for you. You have no input into it, and yet you could still, because it was acting as a hub. Is that why? Because you kind of
the captain's quarters wasn't even the hub. The ship was the hub.
No, but that's what I mean. Like, is it because you were constantly exposed to it? Like, if you got on the Normandy once and then never got onto it ever again, would it still feel like home? Probably not, right?
No, and you had to go to each planet. Like, you had to go back to the galaxy map, and you had to... And then in, like, Mass Effect 2 with the yeoman... oh, gosh, what's her name? I can't think of it. Doesn't matter. It'll come to me later. The yeoman who was next to the map, like, her constantly telling you about... the new messages on your terminal, or like where you should go next, little things like that. That it really, I don't know, it felt very, very familiar after a couple of times.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I think there are probably more games that do that make that kind of repetition into how they make you feel at home with a place than any others. Like thinking back ages and ages. I mean, you've got hubs like the End of Time in Chrono Trigger, where you come back to it and you talk to the old man at the end of time.
Oh, Kelly Chambers.
Kelly Chambers.
Yeah, I've been Kelly Chambers. Sorry, go.
Okay, right.
I told you to come back.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, the End of Time at the end of in Chrono Trigger is like, there's nothing there.
No,
like, it's just a bunch of. It not
is
even
literally the end of time.
Yeah, there's no house, there's no nothing. It's just platforms in nothing in space, basically. But the fact that you're always going back there, talking to the old man there, who's always sleeping, and you always wake him up, and this little snot bubble or whatever it is that Japanese people do pops, and then he's like, ooh. The fact that you're always going back there kind of makes it feel way more familiar, whereas in a game, I don't know, like and it's similar to Mass Effect in that, you know, you're always coming back to this thing, and you learn how to walk around it efficiently. Like you learn the space so much more as a result. And
you know where people are going to be. Like if you want to talk to this person, you know he's over here, and you know she's over here. Like you know where to go to find the person. And I think that's another thing as well, is that if you've got party members, especially in these kind of games where you have party members that you really get attached to, knowing where to find them makes it feel familiar.
Yeah, for sure.
So in the Dragon Age games, especially 1 and 3, 2 not as much, because you actually had a house in 2. But in 1 and 3, you would camp, and each time you camped, like, the scenery might be a little bit different depending on where you were, but you knew exactly where all the characters were going to be, and those camping grounds felt very, very familiar, and they felt like home.
Yeah, for sure. One thing that I just wanted to quickly mention, which probably some other people listening to this would be all too happy to point out, is games like Harvest Moon and Animal Crossing and The Sims.
Yeah.
Yes, we know those exist, where you are literally building a house and customizing it and making it your own.
Also, I'm a huge... I don't know if I should even admit this, but I'm a huge Sims fan.
Oh, we knew that. That was been admitted multiple times in the past.
You know it. But the other people might not, Phil.
So those are games where obviously the whole point of the game is to make those things. While we acknowledge that, probably the reason why those things are so powerful and so popular is the fact that you are creating this awesome space that can showcase your aesthetics and your style and your taste, basically.
And when we say they are so popular, The Sims is the single most successful game ever.
Yeah, it's pretty astounding.
It's more successful than Pokemon.
Yeah.
That's
insane.
And as a franchise, it sold more units than any Mario game put together. Like, The Sims is a juggernaut. It is a behemoth that no other game will ever topple. Like, it's crazy. And that's because I think as well, because The Sims appeals to a much wider audience, especially at a time and at a dark time, or what I consider to be a dark time in terms of video game culture, when girls were not allowed to play games. It was just not, they weren't allowed to like Blue, they weren't allowed to like Transformers, and they weren't allowed to play video games. So when you got a game like The Sims where people go, oh, that's about decorating, I'm sure a girl could play this. Yeah, it's also awesome, and stop telling girls what they can and can't do. Like, stop being that person. But
yeah, absolutely.
It has such wider general appeal, especially at that time, late 90s, early 2000s, mid 2000s, I guess, as well. And you know what? Probably even still now, because unfortunately we haven't solved sexism yet.
No,
the patriarchy is still a thing.
Yeah. So The Sims and all those kinds of games, like there's a reason why they're so popular. They do allow you to showcase all these different things and kind of to experiment in that space. It's very much an experimental thing. Like,
and
it's like playing.
Tap into something primordial inside you.
Which is to shelter.
Yeah.
Like how to create your shelter and
make
to show
fire. And make
fire.
Lots of fire. We're back on The Sims
in the kitchen. Yeah, yeah. But yeah, so obviously those games exist, but we kind of thought that they were kind of a bit of a gimme. That's why we wanted to structure the conversation more around these interesting intersections of where things are not quite a home, or maybe less of a home than people think.
Yeah. And so the other thing is that up until now, all we've talked about are single player games. These are games that you can build a house in, but no one else will ever see it. This is just for you.
Yeah.
MMOs are a huge part of the market as well. And it's funny, or at least it's funny to me, because I feel like every single MMO in the past 100 years.
You just disappeared.
Hello?
Hello, what happened?
I'm still here. Nothing happened.
Okay.
Just you.
That's interesting.
I was going to say that, yeah, MMOs, since time immemorial, have been claiming the ability to build houses. And it never eventuates. It's always the very first thing that would get cut in the game. Which I find funny, because it shouldn't really be that difficult, but that's a whole different...
Well, that's like us saying that, it's we should just put MMO mechanics in our game that we make in 48 hours. Like, it's very obviously difficult. Otherwise, they would do it.
Otherwise, everyone would do it, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's all these games, and the one that sticks out to me most recently is Guild Wars 2. It was actually one of the largest dot points on the box. It was like, and you'll have player housing, and everyone was like, yeah, player housing. And the way you interact with the living world is going to be reflected in the player housing, and you can invite people back to your player housing, and you put trophies in your housing. And then it just disappeared. It just completely disappeared.
Yeah.
And this happens in every MMO. And even now, like, so I was complaining about this to you earlier, and you're like, oh, but WoW has it now. I'm like, yeah, but WoW's been out for 20 years.
What was the name of that space MMO that came out? I think it's WildStar. Yeah, WildStar.
WildStar.
So WildStar apparently did it really well.
Space MMO. Do you mean Star Citizen, Phill?
No, I don't mean that, for the love of God.
You thought you could get an episode in without me saying it.
So WildStar, and actually Lord of the Rings Online, I'm pretty sure has housing now.
Yeah, they do.
That's quite good. So those are really a little bit, they're quite interesting as well, because in that case you are essentially doing quests, achieving stuff in game just so you can get decorations for your house. Like, there are full-on quests and stuff that are just for decorations.
Yeah, so WildStar even had you collect like tree seeds and stuff as well, so you could...
Yeah, and then you could use those and grow plants and then eat the plants, and they give you bonuses and all that kind of stuff. So that was actually quite a good one, and it kind of showed how far people are willing to go to have a pimp-ass house that they would like take on these top-level raids and all this kind of stuff, which is pretty interesting.
And even when you don't have a house, you still, in these MMOs, tend to gravitate towards places that feel familiar. So, I mean, when we had a guild in Guild Wars 2, we would always meet in certain...
Technically, we still do.
We still do. We always used to meet in a particular place in Lion's Arch, for example. Or back when we were playing Age of Conan, and I spent a lot of time in Age of Conan. To me, Konark Village there felt like home. Even though I didn't have... none of the houses there were mine, and I didn't even particularly bond with any of the houses on a superficial level. But coming back to the village always felt like coming back home after going out questing. So, I don't know, did you have a similar thing in some games like these?
Yeah, I think the familiarity in MMOs comes from actually just the world, and also the people. Yeah, so like you start to get that familiarity of places you've gone and like people to see within NPCs, I should say, within the world itself. But then obviously there's the other side of things, which is homes that aren't necessarily physical structures in the game, because that's a relatively it's a pretty surface level construct, right? Is like to put up 4 walls, like 4 textures in a game, and then call it a home. Like obviously there are stuff in especially MMOs which feel way more like home, which is something like the guild chat channel. Like, that a lot of the time, like, that will feel more like home than any kind of structure that you might build. Which I think is really quite interesting and very powerful. I mean, there are people that play at WoW now that have been together since day one, and they're in these guilds that are just incredibly strong and must feel like home to them. Like, must feel like logging into WoW, jumping on the guild chat channel, having TeamSpeak up or whatever, it must feel like coming home to them.
Yeah.
Which I envy.
Well,
but I also know that
there was a period
we
of
have
time
that as well.
when we played Lineage 2 on that
Oh my
server.
god.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Jeez.
Should I not have brought that up?
It's the worst MMO.
It was, but that's the thing is, like, I was going to say, it looks like a butt, and not a good butt. It looks like a bad butt, like a real cottage cheesy, just gross butt.
Oh, okay, that's enough of that.
and it wasn't a particularly fun game either.
No, it sucked.
But we logged in. We logged in a lot, and we would play together. And coming back and just seeing the other people in chat and seeing them jumping around the world and glitch jumping over mountains, like
I remember that.
That was home.
Yeah. And even today, I mean, even because I'm in Darwin, obviously, so jumping onto a Mumble server while we're all playing Fallout 4, even though we haven't quite accomplished that yet because we're all playing at different times because stupid time zones. Doing anything like that, like playing any multiplayer game together over Mumble, it always feels like home. It feels like coming home kind of
Even
thing.
playing single player. Like, I mean, we do play single player games over Mumble as well. We're playing completely different parts of the game, but we're like still chatting about what we're doing or sharing a cool moment purely verbally that the other person can't see, but it's just that shared experience that you find familiarity with.
Yeah, exactly. I think that is really interesting. Like the whole. Yeah, I think that's something we should probably explore in a future episode, which is just how those social networks grow so much more strongly when you're actually doing something together in a game, like, you know, building something or taking on a raid or whatever. I think that's a really interesting concept.
Deconstructing a ship in Space Engineers or
building
or anything a redstone
like
circuit in Minecraft, like
shared goals basically. Is like home.
Which is again probably the fact that we can do this now in games is probably one of the reasons why these huge sandbox games are so popular now.
Yeah, exactly.
If you go into Steam and type in the word building as a tag, oh my god. Oh my god. There are so many games. And I mean, let's face it, most of them are Minecraft, Terraria, or some kind of very close homage to one of those games. But there are so many of them. And I guess because once you master basic netcode, they're probably not that difficult to put together. If you have a basic amount of persistence, you have a certain amount of, especially with the Minecraft aesthetic, where you've got that very pixelated voxel, sort of, easy to deconstruct Lego world.
Yeah, for sure.
People love to play these games, and I guess people love to make these games. Or maybe people just like to make money from these games. But people certainly, there's something happening here. There's some alchemical reaction that people are experiencing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that combination of being able to carve out your own place in the world physically, like building stuff, building your own house, but also having that social interaction, which, as we've said, feels like home to a lot of people, to come and talk to the same people every day and have that social interaction. Like, that's having them both in the same game is just, it's really, really powerful.
Especially, I mean, this could take a dark turn, but if you don't have those in your real life as well.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's one of the reasons why I was so heavily invested in Minecraft. And it's not a story I tell very often. I probably won't tell all of it now either. But there were characters in Morrowind that they were more friends to me than any real person. And coming back into that game, even when I didn't have, even when I was going into my bunk at Balmorra, it genuinely felt like coming home because of the shared experiences I was having with virtual people. Like, that genuinely felt like coming home. It's one of the reasons why I just kept logging back in, because it was such a fantastic experience to come back and have that sense of familiarity. And even though they were completely virtual constructs that don't even have voices, some of them, they're just text on the screen. It's that sense of belonging that you can even construct yourself if the setting is right for it.
Yeah, if the tools are there and if the setting is there and the world is there, like, it's possible to do.
Which also naffly comes back to the whole home is where the heart is adage, because I guess it's kind of true. Like, if you feel like you belong somewhere, that just becomes home to you.
Yeah, for sure. Cool.
And on that
I think
sad note,
yeah, no. I don't think it's a sad note at all. I think it's a triumph of games being these places where we can experience these things. I think it's really great. But we are running at around about an hour, so we should probably wrap it up there. Home. If you have any thoughts about it, please comment on the website. We've got episodes up there every single time we record one. Hopefully it's going to be a little bit more reliable because now Tim and I are actually communicating about when we're available. So that's good. That's a step in the right direction. As we said at the start of the episode, we will have the PAX talk up. And also we would love to hear from scientists out there that want to talk about video games. We met a whole bunch of you at PAX, so hopefully some of you hear this and put your hand up. Otherwise, we'll put out a shout on Twitter as well, looking for people, and also on the Facebook page at some point as well. But yeah, I guess we'll wrap it up there. So, how does this go again? Thank you all very much for listening. You can find us on the web at www.timandphill.com. That's Phill with 2 L's. And on Facebook at facebook.com/timandphill. Again, it's 2 L's. If you do want to contact us directly, however, you can find Tim on Twitter at Dungeon Master, add him as a friend on Steam as Ageotas, that's Ageotas, or at his website, which is CorsairsAnchorage.com.
and as always, you can find Phill on Twitter at ToothSoup, add him as a friend on Steam as Flaxy, which is FLAXEH, or you can find him at his regular website, which is toothsoup.com. Thanks for listening.
And happy gaming.
And what better way than to celebrate than to talk about the various virtual homes that we've crafted in HR. Fuck that up. Right through it.
Extra than.
Right through it, man. No one will notice.